There is a quick question from Joanna to any one of you, Jemimah, Julie, or Moyo, about now that you have the participation of more women in SMEs in Africa. Is that going to influence the consumer demand, and how much of that is going to be influenced now that you have more women participating in SMEs versus, of course, the influence of the big companies like Danone?
I can give a point of view. So on this one, it's yes or no. So yes is that we see what we call regional brands beginning to grow. So COVID actually has helped regional brands a lot to grow. So it does influence, some of the food or some of the innovations that we have thought about. But what we also see is that the big companies have the money to spend on positioning and the awareness. So both of them impact each other. So what we do in the past, we were very arrogant. And what does that mean is that, if we see a regional brand growing, we ignore if it's not part of our innovation thinking. Today, when we see any regional brand growing, we check what they're doing. We look at the rotation, how fast it's growing, and we try to see what we can do as quickly as possible. So we kind of amplify what's going on. So I would say what the SMEs are doing is when they're doing something very creative, very anchored, and very desirable, I would say the big companies, especially nowadays where everybody is trying to find growth everywhere, the big companies kind of take the idea, they steal the idea basically, and then they amplify with their own resources.
Thank you for your honesty. Julie?
I think Moyo said everything already.
Okay, Jemimah.
Hello, Moyo, how are you?
Hi, Julie.
I think the only thing I would add is go back to that slide that I said we have about 80% of foods moving from farm to consumers, and the 80% that's moving, 16% of it in Africa right now is by big companies, and 64% is by SMEs. So we know that trend can shift. And so I think there's still a lot of opportunity for SMEs to actually influence what people consume if so much of the food is moving through them. Having said that, as Moyo said, these SMEs, we have to support the SMEs. I remember one of the projects we had a couple of years ago while I was at IDRC was supporting SMEs, for example, to fortify cooking oil with vitamin A in recognition of the fact that a lot of the cooking oil that was being used in rural areas was passing through small and medium processors, especially the medium regional and country level processes. So they have a huge role to play, but there has to be investments and support in terms of innovations, in terms of capacity, in terms of research, because they also don't have huge R&D budgets like Danone or Nestle would have. So there's a lot of work to be done there, and that's why I was saying we have to support that part of the agriculture and food system, because there's been a lot of focus by governments on the production part of the food system, and much more is needed more upstream in the food system to support some of these SMEs so that they can actually influence what's happening in the consumer base.
Thank you, Jemimah. We're almost at the end of our chat this afternoon. Joanna, I'll put you on the spot to comment. I see that the private sector has an interest in moving some of what you would call the African indigenous crops. And with the presentation we had also from the Crop Trust, what would you like to say?
Okay, thank you, Moses. And it was a really great range of people that we had today, and really appreciate to have the insights, and especially to see small business and larger business perspectives and what's happening in the market in Africa. I think it shows though we still have a huge need to get the message out on what is healthy. We're seeing there's the trend for healthier food. And of course, we know there's always the issues around what's accessible and affordable, but we really also have to get the awareness of what's nutritious. I'm sure Harvest Plus would be very much behind sort of making sure that the need to know about what is more fortified, naturally fortified out there, the consumer awareness about products like millets and sorghum, but others as well. So I think we've got a long way to go, but there's quite an interesting base there, and the interest from the consumer side as well as the industry side, as well as we've seen from the research side. So I think we're going in the right direction, but a lot of work to go.
Okay, thank you, Joanna. And to the panelists, I say thank you. It's been interesting. And for me, all I can say is we all seem to have the small pieces of the puzzle. But how do we get that together? The research information that we have, the private sector, and what the farmer needs, and also what the consumer needs. I can see that from what the array of presentations today, everything is in place. But how do we link that so that we can provide a pool for the producers, the smallholder farmers, and also have high quality food product for the consumer? So Joanna, on behalf of the team, thank you very much. And I think that marks the end of this session.